to the Life Burst podcast. We're going to do our set review, this time for Changing DIVA. We're going to talk about red cards. Let's get right into it. Per the usual, we're going to use our very advanced grading metric of staple, playable, barely playable, and not playable at all. And we're going to be taking things in order. I'll read these cards out to you. Excuse me if I mispronounce names. This is one of the first times I'm really dealing into the set, aside from what we've been testing. But we never really know what the English names are going to be until they actually come. So excuse me on those names. We've got Kamiyachi, Crimson Angel. It is worth noting that this is an angel, as the name would suggest. It's a 3,000 power. It has an auto ability. Whenever an angel on your Signy on your field is vanished, target Signy on your field gets plus 5,000 power. This inevitably leads itself to a more mid-range strategy. It is an angel tribal. An angel tribal is not super great right now, but it is in the right angel colors. Angel colors generally are sort of red and white, a little bit in the other colors. So the reason why I call this more defensive is because this isn't really great on your turn, but it's okay on your opponent's turn, right? They do a removal, you can buff one of your Signy in response to that, and then suddenly you now have a blocker, right? So it becomes tougher to remove future Signy. However, where that kind of logic fails is, generally speaking, there's only one or two problem Signys on the opponent's field at any point in time. Certainly this is not a problem Signy. Plus they could remove this and really limit what it can do. And so it's okay. I put barely playable down for this. It's not a draw for me to be in an angel deck, but if I'm in an angel deck, this is certainly a card I could consider. We've got Zapar Angel, Crimson Evil. It's a 2,000 level 1 that has put another red Signy into the opponent's, from your field into the opponent's trash. Vanish target Signy on your opponent's field with 3,000 power or less. So here's the thing. This is, again, barely playable. A lot of red cards get a little bit more push because you can play them in a mono red deck and they become a little bit more playable than they should normally be. This has the ability to trade one of your Signy that's sort of useless. It could even be, for example, a frozen Signy. And then vanish something on your opponent's field. 3,000 or less is not a wide margin. It actually becomes better in the future where there are a lot more 3,000 or less targets for it. But this is probably not as good as like Romail. And if you needed more cards to hit smaller Signy, you could consider this, but I wouldn't put it very high on my block at all for things I'd want to consider. Mensha Natural Planet is our next level 1 Signy at 3,000 power. It has an action where you can down it, and you can put this Signy on the top of its owner's deck, and it's got a life burst that says you can pay a red, and you can vanish Signy on the opponent's field with 8,000 or less. Is this card any good? And I think the answer is no, pretty unplayable. The fact that it only puts itself on the top of its owner's deck, it can't save itself in response to anything. This isn't Magic. So you have to use timing restrictions on this. It's just like, I guess if there was in the future something that like would be like reveal the top, if it's a level 1 or if it's a Cosmos, then this suddenly becomes okay. You can start maybe an engine with it, but outside of that, it's not very good. Your life bursts you're hoping are usually on your level 3s or level 2s. So life burst is less important on your level 1s, and this life burst is not all that great either because it means that you have to pay an enter. And again, you want those life bursts to be free if possible. So I'm going to go ahead and say this one's unplayable. Looking at this next one, we got a girl riding a... oh, she's in nunchucks. I see now. I thought she was riding a bullet, but she's nuncha, high-armed. Level 2, 10,000 power. Vanilla has no text on it aside from a life burst that says put target card from your opponent's enter into their trash, draw a card. This one's also going to go on the barely playable function. It's not great. Again, you'd rather have removal as your red life burst options, but sans that, if you have enter burn being a theme in your deck, this is going to be pretty good. Drawing a card is not bad. It replaces itself, basically, which is fine on a life burst, and a little unusual on a red life burst. And it's one of the few times that you're going to be able to enter burn. You can really mess up the opponent because it doesn't share a color with their center, so maybe you can potentially stop a grow with one of these. And also, if you're putting this in an aggro deck, enter burning with aggro sort of goes hand in hand because you can extend the short game by making them have harder chances to be able to grow. So it's okay. Again, I think you'd rather have one of those like Volcanias that go ahead and do just straight removal options from their life burst if you're going to pick something like that. But again, okay. We've got S-Tove code art. It's a stove, if you didn't get the joke here. So it's a space heater. And it's a spells-based thing. It's a level 2 with 7,000 power, but although its constant is that if there's a spell in your trash, the Signet gets plus 3,000 power, so it turns into a 10,000 power, and has the enter cost of red, red, red if there are 5 or more spells in your trash. This Signet gains Assassin until end of turn. I'm going to go ahead and say this is not a good card, and it's probably unplayable. I don't think it's really the spells payoff that you really desperately want in your deck for that type of stuff. So let's just go ahead and boot this as unplayable, and you probably have better options at level 2 if you're trying to be aggressive with red. We've got another level 2. This one is Phantom Terra Beast Hamster. Hamstar, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's a star and a hamster. It's 5,000 power. It has an auto ability that whenever this attacks, if its power is 8,000 or more, you can banish a Signet with power 3,000 or less. If its power is 12,000 or more instead, you can banish something that is 8,000 or less. This lives and dies on whether or not you're doing team buffs. There are a fair amount of team buffs in red and a fair amount of team buffs in green, and the fact that this is a Terra Beast, the color combo that does care about that type of creature type or Signet type and also does do team buffs means that this is a valid option. I put this down as playable. It becomes less playable again as the future goes on, but in the meantime, if you're looking for Terra Beasts and you're looking for team buffs, this is probably a worth mentioning thing. You also have to compete with Hera and Lancelot with a level 2 red Signes, so those still might be better than this. So I wouldn't just play this just because it's a Terra Beast and I want to play Buffalo later down the line, but it is an option to consider. Moving right along into our level 3s, we have Bosia, Crimson Guard. This is a constant ability of as long as this is in your center zone, it gets plus 5,000 power, and it's a 10,000 power Signet on its own, so it'd be 15,000 if it's in the center. Guys, that's huge, so it's worth mentioning that it's huge. If you are in the market for a deck, or a red walls deck, this is sure in sort of consideration. I don't know why you're in the red walls deck, but that's its niche. I would say unplayable, realistically, outside of that. But if you really, really are hurting for power matters, this is an easy way to get something huge on your field. Let's go back up to the secret rares. We've got Daja Crimson Evil Queen. Demon, although that really doesn't matter in red all that much. It's got several abilities, 12,000 power, auto, once a turn. When one of your life cloth is crushed, you get to draw a card. Its other one is whenever a Signet on your field is put into a trash by effect or a cost on your side, your own effect, then you can enter charge 1. Then you have the ability to enter, you may crush one of your own life cloth, and that would trigger your drawing the card ability here. It has a life burst, which is vanish target Signet on your opponent's field with 8,000 or less. It does not cost any enter, so yeah, that's a good life burst. Its enter ability is strange. It does work with the fact that you'll be able to draw a card, but I don't think you're ever in a situation where you really want to be crushing your own life cloth. If in the future there's more effects, it's like, oh, the more you get hurt, the stronger your things are, a la a suicide red deck or something, then this suddenly becomes more playable, but without that, it's not super, super playable. The other two effects are okay. Whenever your life cloth is crushed, you get to draw a card. If you were to tack that on, to literally any life burst, then it suddenly becomes better. But very rarely is your Signy live past your opponent's turn, so I don't know if that's going to reliably go off. Whenever the Signy is put onto the trash from your cost or your effect, that becomes a little better. It's in the right Signy type. Demons like to sacrifice things, and red does have some amount of self-sacrifice in it, so you could theoretically enter charge with that. Again, I don't think this is all that great. I probably would put this down at unplayable just because I'm not looking to suicide at any point in time. But it has a good life burst and okay abilities. Talk about some other card that has an okay ability. We have Phoenix, Natural Planet Queen. This has Harmony, 1 L-Rig that you got to down. Harmony is a new ability. It's 12,000 power. It's got 2 autos. At the beginning of your attack phase, if the Signy is upped, you can put target card from your opponent's enter zone that does not share a color with its center L-Rig into the trash. And also, if 2 or more cards have been removed from their enter zone into the trash by your effect, then you get to draw a card. That second ability, whenever I've tested it, never goes off really. It goes off occasionally if you have Go to the Top as your as one of your pieces that you use. But realistically, it is just an okay Signy. But red needs okay level 3 Signys that don't have life bursts. It almost seems like all of their their level 3 Signys are life burst and good, so it has some deck filling function there. And this is okay if you're in an aggro deck. If you're in a mid-range deck or a slower deck, this is not so great. It's also dangerous to enter burn nowadays because you have Xenocluster coming out in this set as well, and Xenocluster can really punish you for trying to enter burn your opponent. So I would use this with caution. If you're an aggro deck and you're looking at trying to fill in a level 3 slot that doesn't have life burst, this probably can do it. So it gets the barely playable title because of that. We also have a Buffalo Phantom Terra Beast God. It is a level 3 with 12,000 power. Whenever another Terra Beast enters the field, this and that Signy that enter both get 4,000 power until end of turn. It also has an auto ability at the beginning of your attack phase. All the Signy on your field that have power 2,000 or more gain. Whenever the Signy attacks, you may pay red and colorless. If you do, vanish target Signy in front of that Signy with 12,000 power or less. So, this is important to note. It does not say that a Terra Beast with power 2,000 or 20,000 or more, anything that's 20,000 or more, can get this ability and then be off. Which means that it actually is pretty good now and also pretty good in the future. You can build around it by doing Terra Beasts, and this certainly is a payoff. It's actually one of the ones, unlike Angels, that I see here and go, oh, that's a good payoff. I might consider building something for that. But if you just have Team Pump, getting anything to above 20,000 will inevitably trigger this. The important part is also that it happens on your attack phase before they can react with their grows on their sort of defense portion of the beginning of the attack phase. So the Signys gain this, so they'll have to vanish this if it's that big, and other Signys if they're also on the field in order to stop this ability from kicking in. So this is a pretty good one-of in your decks if you're team pumping, and I've also seen it in the Japanese meta in the future, just being one-ofs because of this ability allows you to get some future reach. If you're being a more mid-range or aggressive deck and you can get that team pump, it's a very good card. I'm going to say it's staple, just because you might, if you're playing a lot of red decks, you might want to pick 1 or 2 copies of this up and have them lying around for the rest of Wixoss to have and play with. The next one is in Perfect Harmony. It costs 2 red. Until the end of turn, target red level 3 Signy on your field gets Double Crush. That's pretty good if you could pull it off and actively manage to do a Double Crush. The only problem I see is it's so limited in its scope of targeting. Not only does it have to target a level 3 Signy, but it has to be a level 3 red Signy. And at that point, why aren't you playing I'm brain farting on that name right now. I'm just going to type no, and I'm going to get a million answers here, and then scroll to it. There we go. No bunga. Because this does the same thing. You target any red signing. It's got even more targeting options, and then you get the ability to do double crush at 2 red, plus the upside of being able to vanish something on the field. So you open up a lane to do this. It's just, with that card already existing, I don't think this will see much play. Theoretically, in a deck that probably wants more spells in it, like Love It really is, DJ Love It, the center would be, this might have a niche where you'd rather play this than that, but it's a very, very, very small niche. I'm going to go ahead and mark it unplayable and be proven otherwise, I think. And with that, we have our review of our red Wixoss cards from Changing Diva. As always, I hope you guys subscribe and watch for more deck techs, metagame updates, and more set reviews. In the meantime, I'm Andrew from the Life Burst podcast, and may you always flip a Life Burst.